I'd like to open the Planning Commission meeting for August 15th, 2024. We're going to go ahead and call the order, Stuart.
Yes, sir.
In a roll call.
Chris Crowley, he informed me he was not feeling well, and he said he'd better stay home, and I said, by all means. Patrick O'Brien.
Here.
John Cost. Vivian Diggs.
Here.
Garfield Parker.
Here.
Alan Garland informed me he would not be able to make it. Roger McKinley.
I'm here.
Charles Williams.
Here.
Heidi Wilkins Court.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Let's do an invocation and pledge. Before we do the pledge, I'd like to have a moment of silence for one of our lost members. Sad to hear Brother Ed King had passed last week. Could we do a moment of silence, please? Thank you. For our invocation, if you would just bow for a moment. My Father, I thank you for this day. I thank you for another opportunity to serve the community that we live in. I thank you for the opportunity to continue to seek new ways to benefit this community so that we may all grow together. Thank you for your guidance and your direction, and we continue to look for your touch. And in Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's do approval of agenda. If anything needs to be added.
Yes, sir. On the request of Ms. Wilkins Corey, we'd like to add at the beginning of the work session items, it's the section of the code is 2232, and so I'm calling it a 2232 review discussion. But it has to do with the Board of Supervisors meeting regarding the solar facilities at the last meeting. And I'd like to add that at the beginning. In addition, I did not have the memo at the time when I created the agenda. So I'd like to modify number 2, which would now be number 3, about discussing the county-owned property analysis, and change canoe kayak launch to a public water access at Hampton Hall Landing, because it's an open-ended memo. It does not say that they want a canoe kayak launch. They want public water access at that site. So it's up to the commission to decide what we want to do there. Maybe a canoe kayak launch, maybe a fishing pier, but I didn't want to steer you down a road that we haven't taken yet.
Move adoption of the agenda as amended.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion is passed. Okay. Public hearings. There are no public. First of all, I'd like to invite and thank the public who are online, on social media. Just like to thank you for listening in tonight. Remember, please, that this is your planning commission. It's not mine. It's not any of the board members. It's yours, and you certainly need to have a say in what goes on in this county. So we welcome your input. Just allow us to give you your name and your address, and then we can go ahead and discuss it. Is there anyone online at this time? All right. Okay. So let's go to our first item that
Could we approve the minutes?
oh, I'm sorry.
Move adoption of the minutes. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are passed. Okay.
And I have a comment, or actually an action item, if it's possible.
Yes.
Mary with Dotson, the treasurer with the county, requested pass these out. She would really like everyone to get direct deposit for your mileage reimbursement. Some of the members have already done that, but here's the form to do that, and she would encourage everybody to do that, just to make it so she didn't have to write checks and have to wait for the checks to clear and things of that nature. And It needs to be returned, it's going to have sensitive financial information, so it needs to be returned to the county administrator's office. But you can drop it by my office, or you can come and bring it to the next meeting. But she would like to get as many people as could direct by.
Sure.
Makes sense. Yep.
And that's all the comments I have.
All right, thank you.
You're direct deposit.
All right. So under our work session items, and first of all, do I have any commissioners with a comment? Sometimes the world seems to be going so fast. Just
Very briefly, Mr. Chairman, there's going to be a memorial service for Ed King tomorrow
right.
at Totoski Baptist. I think there's a viewing that starts at 1 and a actual ceremony starting at 2 and running to about 4 o'clock.
Okay. All right.
And they're both at Totoski Baptist Church in Warsaw.
Yes.
Okay. Totoski is where the,
If you drive between Callio and Warsaw, it's about halfway down, more or less, and on the right. It's actually Totoski Baptist Road or Lane or something like that.
years ago, you spent
Totoski Church.
Old Dragon.
If you're coming out of Warsaw down 3, it's where the 4 lanes go to 2, basically. Right where the divided highway becomes a 2-lane highway, it's on the left-hand side, if you go to Warsaw and come back down that way.
Okay, okay.
And the Welch Funeral Home, if you go to their website, it has the address if you need to use your GPS.
All right.
And Mrs. King emailed me today and informed me if I didn't know already, and I said that I wished her well, and we will miss him, and we really enjoyed his insight and business acumen.
Thank you.
And yeah, he will be missed.
For sure.
Yep. Okay. All right. Any other comments from the commissioners? Any other comments? All right. If you can make it, please do. Ed served on this commission for a number of years, and until his health began to fail, he was really faithful. Okay. All right. Anybody? No more comments? Public comments? Staff, any comments?
No, sir. That direct deposit was all I had.
All right. Citizens comment? All right. So we'll go to the work session items.
And the first item is the 2232 review discussion, and that's what Ms. Wilkins asked about. And this regards the legal status of the comprehensive plan. I have it up on the screen here. I'll read, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll read like the first sentence, a few sentences. It's pretty long, but whenever a local planning commission recommends a comprehensive plan or part thereof for the locality, and such plan has been approved and adopted by the governing body, it shall control the general or approximate location, character, and extent of each feature shown on the plan. Thereafter, unless a feature is already shown in the adopted master plan or part thereof, or is deemed so under subsection D, no street or connection to an existing street, park, or other public area, public building or public structure, public utility facility, or public service corporation facility other than a railroad facility or an underground natural gas or underground electrical distribution facility of a public utility as defined in subsection B of section 56-265. Within its certified service territory, whether publicly or privately owned, shall be constructed, established, or authorized unless and until the general location or approximate location, character, and extent thereof has been submitted to and approved by the commission as being substantially in accord with the adopted comprehensive plan or thereof. And that's the meat of it, that the commission must approve these projects and say it's substantially in accord with the comprehensive plan. It doesn't say it matches it perfectly, but that it's substantially in accord with it. So it's not out of the realm, it's not, it flows with it, so it's not too incongruous, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So that's my non-legal description.
So the fact that we don't have solar farm information in the comp plan right now. I mean, we're working it.
Right.
But when it came up at the Board of Supervisors meeting, because it wasn't in the comp plan, that's why they were saying it would have to come to us for review? Or Mr.
No,
Long,
it
Mr.
ha-
Long made the motion that it should
It
come to
it
us.
has to be reviewed by the planning commission, whether it's in the comprehensive plan or not. But the way the attorney explained it to me, if
Okay.
it's not in the comprehensive plan, this is the way to address it, that it's not in the comprehensive plan, and make sure that it's kind of a stopgap. It's a backup, so that if it's not in the comprehensive plan, then the planning commission can address it at that time.
Okay.
Okay.
So the county attorney explained to me that ideally you do that before it went to the Board of Supervisors, but the state code does not state when it needs to be done. So in the case, if, for example, the Board of Supervisors did approve that, it would be perfectly legal to do it after the board, they would table it or put it contingent upon the planning commission review and whether it was substantially in accord with the comprehensive plan. So it's not an ideal situation, but it doesn't say you have to do it before, but ideally you would want to do it before. And so that's section A, but there's another section that specifically refers to solar, and that's section H. And a solar facility subject to subsection A, which we just talked about, shall be deemed to be substantially in accord with the comprehensive plan if, one, such proposed solar facility is located in a zoning district that allows such solar facilities by right. Of course, that's not the case in Northumberland County, but if you had a zoning district that had that, then that would be in accord, because it would have been already approved. Such proposed solar facility is designed to serve the electric or thermal needs of a property upon which such facility is located or will be owned or operated by an eligible customer generator or eligible agricultural customer generator under section 56-594 or 56-59401, or by a small agriculture generator under 56-594.2. So that if you recall, when we were doing the solar ordinance, we had to make an exemption for those because those, the power is consumed on site, and then we don't want to make any hurdles that a farmer has to jump through if he wants to power his own farm. Then 3, the locality waives the requirement that solar facilities be reviewed for substantial accord with the comprehensive, agricultural generator, or the locality waives the requirement that solar facilities be reviewed by substantial accord with the comprehensive plan. So you would have to say, well, we don't require that. But if not, then it should be reviewed by the planning commission. All other solar facilities shall be reviewed for substantial accord with the comprehensive plan in accordance with this section. However, a locality may allow for a substantial accord review for such solar facility to be advertised and approved concurrently in a public hearing process with rezoning, special exception, or other approval process. So you can do it before, you can do it concurrently, and you can do it after, but it doesn't say you can't do it after. So that's what the county attorney said, we could have done it after if we needed to. Ideally, in the future, we'll do it before. So hopefully that answers everyone's questions. You know, I recall Susan Seward talking about 2232 review. I don't know if y'all remember her presentations talking about the 223 review. But this is something that has come to our attention, and we may have not been doing it right in the past, but we're gonna do it right from now on. And so this is the state code, we need to follow it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Board of Supervisors have any sort of protocol in place? for
No,
handling these
no,
kinds of cases?
No, the only thing we've done is just as we've been doing them. You know, we weren't even aware of this either, so I'm glad it's been brought to our attention.
I think one of my major concerns is that when someone does come to the county government to ask for, to get permission to do that, my concern is that there has to be a way. They spend thousands of dollars in prepping to get information to fall in line with the code. And then, after they spend all that time, they're not giving due consideration for it. Because this is private property. I understand, but is private anymore? Because what I'm looking at is, you can own your property, but somebody else can control what you do with it. And I think that in the comprehensive plan, when we do finally get down to doing something about solar, solar is not going anywhere. It may bypass Northumberland, but solar is not going anywhere. And either we're going to make the adjustment to deal with it, or we're going to be behind the 8 ball. And I just hate for businessmen to come in and lose thousands and thousands of dollars if they don't even have a shot at it. Because I know Philip said last time that he added more restrictions. I didn't understand the process. And I sat there and I said, well, the planning commission should definitely have at least to discuss it, because the public needs to know whether they have a shot or not. That's just the way I feel about it. But when we get back to the comp plan and work on this, we got to at least give the citizens a chance, just like we did short-term rentals.
Yeah.
We gave folks a chance.
Oh, that was awesome, yeah.
Right, and so.
So what kind of protocol did the board use I haven't had a chance to read the paper, I saw the headline,
Yeah.
but to deny those 2 projects?
Any idea, Richard?
Yeah, it was denied because of the location, for one thing, in a highly populated area. It's, in that area in there, it was a populated area. Nobody wanted it in that particular area. It's not that we couldn't put it in an area that's not so populated. But all that area is, well, not is, but it will be developed here for years to come. And that was one of the reasons, or that was probably the main reason right there.
Did you have opposition?
Opposition, I bet I talked to at least 50 people against it.
Okay.
And everyone that was around either one of the projects was totally against it.
So maybe a better spot.
There are better spots for it, but you got to get it out of the populated areas, and then it will be fine.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Maybe there's an opportunity to kill 2 birds with 1 stone if whoever the applicant was, if they were to come back to us and take a look at some of the property that we own that's not currently being used and could potentially find another use, that's not in a visible area, not in a residential area. Maybe there would be a good fit, but there's got to be a process for them to figure out what's available and stuff like that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So are we saying in the future that those types of projects will come before us first, before they go to the board?
It's totally up to the board. I understood.
Yes.
Yeah, it's totally up to the board. The board decides what they want to send to the planning commission.
Okay.
So, all right. Any more questions about 2232 code discussion?
Thank
Okay.
you.
I just had the question that I needed you to have it answered. Okay. All right. If there are no more questions, let's go to that first one under the work session. Continue analyzing the pros and cons of a county requiring a business license. I thought we decided last time that with the information that we had gathered, we passed it on to the economic development, and we'll leave it with you guys, leave it with the economic development, and they can do with what they want.
Yes, sir, and I would just like to, before we go into the pros and cons, which is, Mr. Cost did modify that, and we'll show that, and that will be part of the presentation to the board, however we decide. But I just wanted to quickly preview the list that Commissioner Revenue had. I got a copy of it, and it's small, but we can zoom it up. But it's alphabetical listing I talked with Todd about it, and there are numerous, again, duplications in this. And I asked him about it, and he said, well, it could be because one of them, this is a mailing list where he puts labels on envelopes to send tax bill. He said it could be one is sales tax and another is personal property tax. So there are duplicates in here. So that was, to me, I wanted a number. And so I took that, and it goes from A to Z, of course. Another thing to note about this is that there are corporation names that you may not know exactly what is going on with regards to.
So all of these are businesses that are being taxed in some form.
That Todd is sending bills to. And I'm looking for.
What's the total?
Yeah, I've got a total, but I wanted to look right here. Wingspan Hospitality LLC. Anybody got an idea what that business is? No, that's Signet's Restaurant. It's owned by Wingspan. So, there's some things you can tell, some of the names you can tell, you can't. Well, I don't really want to go into this because, again, this is economic development. But I did go through the duplicates and remove the duplicates. And I don't have the numbers right here because it's not in Excel, but it's 668 is what I got for the number of unique individuals. But some of the things that's curious, and I talked to Todd, but I didn't really get it. I didn't understand his answer. But they have Yamaha Finance Corp., and I know they sell motors here, from Nashville, Tennessee. And there's Hyundai Financing and Toyota Financing, Toyota Industries, commercial financing with an out-of-state address, and I'm not sure exactly what, Elgin, Illinois, I'm not sure exactly what that. So this 669 may not be all businesses in the county, but it's substantially higher than the 418 that I came up with in that one. But that's all I wanted to bring up with regards to that. We'll go to Mr. Cost's pro and con list here. He X'd out the second slide, and we made a new slide, and basically removed the fact that it would give us information. I'm sorry, do you want to describe it?
Sure. So I took the notes from our last meeting, cleaned out the stuff that doesn't apply anymore, and came up with a cleaned up list. And Patrick, you'll like the one particular color arrow on here. So, it's a potential source of legitimacy for county residents, probably better for the Chamber of Commerce. It might force current cash businesses to become legitimate taxpayers or not. But by adding a gross receipts tax, the Board of Supervisors could have an additional source of county revenue. But many businesses might fear this is the first step towards such a tax. And so, in sort of summing up the discussion from last time, I think we're at a point now where we agree this is not a good thing to do. It is not the purview yet of the Economic Development Commission because the Board of Supervisors tasked us with preparing this. I did speak with Karen Pika, the chairwoman of the Economic Development Commission today. She said she personally is against this going forward. She says that the sense, they haven't formally voted on the EDC, but the sense is there is no support for doing this. Maurice is a member, I think you're of the same mind. So where basically we're at is, what do we do now to fulfill what the Board of Supervisors asked us to do? And that is to review the pros and cons. So we have a pro and con thing we present to them. We can enhance this if we wanted to by saying, after further review, we recommend not doing this, or referring it to the EDC, whichever. But in case, I think this document basically satisfies what the Board of Supervisors asked us to do. We want to stop there, so if we want to do more and say, it's a terrible idea, let's not do it, that's up to the Commission to make that recommendation.
Good job, thank you.
Thank you, yeah, thank you.
I agree.
Since we have Richard here, Richard is basically sending up a enhanced version of the pros and cons for business licenses, going to address the Board of Supervisors' concerns.
I think it probably will,
Okay.
yeah.
Because the whole idea was, you don't know what you don't know.
And now we do.
And now we know, we have an idea. There's a big difference, okay? That was the thing. Because other than that, real estate is gonna go up every year, unless you find a source of income from somewhere. So my thinking was, Todd had the list, we just didn't know he had it. So, okay. All right.
Yeah, if I could add, when I talked with Mr. Thomas, I said this is from now on will be the Economic Development Commission's bailiwick, and they will be involved with that. And he told me that each year could generate a report of new businesses that are added to that list. So the Economic Commission wouldn't have to look at old year list and the new year list and try to figure out. He could just generate a report that says these are the ones that are added.
Right.
So that would be easy for the Economic Development Commission to track.
Right, and that's all I asked for the planning commission to plan to, and now we know we're gonna pass it down to the economic development.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would move that this pro and con document be shared with the Board of Supervisors as per their request, with a recommendation from the Planning Commission that there not be a county registry, business registry created.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right, so moved.
Is that list of taxable entities available to the public?
Yes, I talked with Todd before I showed it on the screen, because anytime we show anything on the screen, it's public information. He said, yes, that's no problem, that's available to anyone. Now, the amount of money that is taxed you cannot show, but the names and addresses and contacts you can. And
The
if,
public has to ask for it, it's not on his website.
Can you send that?
Can we get a copy of
Yeah, we have
the
already
list
done
of
it.
new businesses?
no, I've not sent it to you all, but if you would like, I could send it to you. I can send you the entire list as Todd gave it to me, or I can send you the one that removed duplicates, whichever one y'all would like.
Yeah, either one. I'd like that too, Stuart.
Okay.
Todd is going to send a monthly report of new business openings to the Economic Development Commission.
He didn't say he was going to, he said he could, so I think the Economic Development Commission would need to request that, but he said he has the capability of generating that report.
Well, in that case, can we just go ahead and ask him to be copied in on that information? I think it would be useful for over a period of months to see if there's any trends evolving.
Okay. I apologize. When the motion was made, Mr. Cost made the motion, and Mr. McKinley seconded it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, fine, okay. All right. Can we move on now?
Yeah, since you're the liaison to the EDC, could you request that when they receive the report, we could get a copy? And I'll follow up with Todd too.
Okay. The suggestion came to discuss the county-owned property analysis done last year in creation of waterfront access at Hampton Hall.
Yes, sir. I'd like to start with just the county-owned properties. If y'all recall, what you all asked for, what y'all recommended, now I can review what we recommended to the Board of Supervisors. There was 5 properties that we recall that we recommended to investigate selling. One was that small lot that was a gravel pit or something near the swamp between Bells Cove and Lodge Road, and then there was the poorhouse tract and Dotlet Road, and then there was property east of Dameron's Marsh, and as you go into Indian Creek Estates, there was a square parcel, 6 acres on the left side of Indian Creek Estates, and then once you go into the Indian Creek Estates and take a right, there was a small waterfront lot. So that's just to refresh your memory. With regards to the poorhouse tract, I started doing some research on it, and there's a lot of history with the poorhouse tract. It actually dates, or the poorhouse and the poor tax actually dates before the Anglican Church, and basically there was a tax for the worthy poor, and that everyone that was over 18 paid that tax. And in 1844, some counties, they got the money from the state, and it started in 1786, And in 1844, the Northumberland County decided to build an actual poorhouse. Some counties did just reimburse people and give them provisions, and other counties built a poorhouse to help house them, and we actually built a whole poorhouse to house indigent, sick, and mentally unstable persons and their children. Remember back in the day, if a woman lost her husband and was a widow with 3 kids, there was really no way for her to generate income other than be a domestic servant. So it could just be a widow, but it also could be someone that has illness and things of that nature. So I found, I went to the Northumberland Historical Society because, you know, that's where I thought the first place to go. On their website, they have an index and table of contents of all the articles. They have 3 articles in the poorhouse by Bruce Craig, and I went over to discuss it with them, and I asked them if there were people interred at the poorhouse tract, and they basically said, yes, most definitely, there's a cemetery there. These people were sick. One of the things that the state required to be reported on is the number of coffins built. And they weren't building coffins to sell to people. It was for people that were in the house that died. So there is a cemetery there, according to the people at the Historic Center and Society, and that due to the fact that there are these interments and grave sites there, that staff recommended that the board not consider selling that property because of the history and because of the human remains on the site.
They have to be removed if we were to sell it?
I know that's possible, but it's not popular. And so I just wanted to let them know before somebody else came up and said we shouldn't sell this at poorhouse tract because there's a cemetery on it. And I, you know, said that staff decided, and so I kind of usurped what the planning commission said, but basically said that if you're going to timber it, you need to mark off where the graves are and avoid them, and that didn't think we should sell it. And of course, it's the board can do whatever the board wants to do.
Does anybody know where they are?
They're on the left-hand side. The lady at the Historical Society said she would be glad to help us try to locate them.
Okay.
And she mentioned a divining rod, so I was like, oh, okay.
What's the size of that property?
Yeah, but it's flat on the top, and that's where the development was. I talked with Curtis Albright, and he said there's remains of a foundation that you can still see. I've not visited the property.
Where is this now?
On Dock Road across from Kirtland Grove.
Across from Kirkland Road.
Right. That's where I
On the
believe,
west side of the road.
yeah, that's where I believe the poorhouse is located. But I just wanted to let you all know about that, and the board has asked that I look into historical grants and try to tell the story of that, and perhaps do some trails or something, and try to tell the story for more people to understand about the history of Northumberland. But, you know, we're talking 1744, so that's something that's an asset, you know. It's
Well, just out of curiosity, are those graves marked, and are there headstones or something?
I don't believe so. I've not visited the property, but I will in the future.
Any sense of how?
They're poor, so I don't think there would be any headstones, but
Well, sometimes charities would pay for the cost of a grave marker.
right.
Any,
Yeah, a haunted trail.
yeah, to make it part of the agricultural museum. Any idea how many people are buried there?
No, sir. I mean, if someone wanted to look on the poorhouse records, I mean, they could count the number of coffins, and I mean, I guess the way that the Historical Society said there are multiple people buried, and so I don't know if it's 10, 20, 30, or how many it is. Lancaster County also had a poorhouse tract, and they ended up giving it to the National Audubon Society, and that is Hickory Hollow Nature Trail now. So I'm not sure if Richmond County had a poorhouse tract in Westmoreland or but I do know Lancaster had one and donated it to the Audubon Society.
Any sense of
It's 140 acres.
Is it all wooded?
No, sir. I've got the maps if y'all want to look at it. So Kirkland Grove's here, and we think, Well, maybe it is on this side.
It looks like it.
Yeah, maybe it is well, that would be farmed. I'm not really sure. I was on the impression it was on this side, on the western side of Docklet Road. But we'll look at the topographic map. This is being farmed by Philip Haney, and so the county is getting income for this farm field here. And if you look, it's kind of hard to see the blue outline of the property, but where the brown contour lines are closely together, that's very steep. So where they're spaced apart is where it's flat, and so of course it's near the road where it's flat, and so then it drops off down to the stream.
Where's 360? Run your cursor on that.
You can't see it. It's north. It's north. I'm not sure, a couple miles.
Okay.
Looks like that field is almost as high as Surprise Hill, isn't it? 100 feet?
Yeah, I think Surprise is a little 135 maybe.
Is it that high?
Yeah, I think it's 135. But that's where the NPR FM antenna is.
Oh, okay.
And I learned about that too, that the county, the radio station would send us a check every year to lease the property, and the county would donate it back to the radio station because it's public service, public radio. And then after a few years, this is what Miss Mary Dodson told me, that the board just finally said, you don't have to send us checks anymore, just that's our donation. So
That left side is what they call topographically intense.
yes, yes. So any development will be on this, on the flat part of that. But you know, that's something. I mean, part of the historic grant. The board asked me to try to make it tell the story of it, but we need to know more about it to be able to tell a story. So there are, I believe I've done some research. There's cost share grants where the county would have to put some money up, and perhaps we'd get an archaeological survey of it or something of that nature. Of course, it's up to the board with what they want to do.
Any sense of when they discontinued?
1959?
That way?
Yeah.
Wow.
I've got the 3 articles here, but I've not had a chance to read the whole thing. I skimmed them. But yeah, it's another thing to add to our tourists, to our history.
I was just gonna say, Mr. Chairman, maybe it makes sense for us to recommend that the Economic Development Commission look into this as a possible tourist attraction. Because it's got a lot of possibilities here in terms of hiking trail and the history, and put some plaques and watch for ghosts or whatever, but this would be really a lot of fun, so.
Sure, I don't have a problem
Are
with
the names of the people that are there traceable?
As I mentioned, yes, there are state records. I think it was in 1820s or so, the state retroactively told the counties that they have to submit financial records for all the money they got from the poor tax, and it perturbed the counties somewhat because they had to go back 20 or 30 years, and a lot of them said, we don't have that information. But the state was mandating unfunded mandates back then and saying you have to do this and fill out these records. But there are, that's originally how I found out about some of the historic things. But they have 4 boxes down at the Library of Virginia, and 2 of them are oversized. And Quattro Hubbard is the archivist there, and I don't think they're scanned. I think would have to go down and actually look at the paper copies. But it's just, that's fascinating to me. That's one of the things that I love about Northumberland County.
Well, we certainly thank you for your diligence.
Well, I find it, like I said, I find it fascinating. So let's, now we're going to train if it's okay. Huh?
What about the piece east of Dameron's Marsh?
Yeah, I want to know about that too.
I'm sorry, west of Dameron Marsh.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Sorry about that. Sorry about
Is
that.
that actually a butt Dameron Marsh?
I'm sorry?
Does that piece of property actually
Yes.
border Dameron Marsh?
Yes. No, I think there's one, I've
Was
got
that
it
the
here.
one that Dr. J.C. donated?
I know it was donated, I'm not sure who did
That's
it.
who did it.
But it's got a, yeah, it is adjacent to the Dameron Marsh natural areas right here. And this is the parking lot here for Dameron Marsh. And if you take this road, you can call it a road, it's not much of a road. But there's a canoe kayak launch right here, which is not much more than a swath cut in the woods. But I've taken my canoe out there, and you come out, and then you go around the sandbar here. But it's nice in there, and when I went there a few summers ago, it's like skate city. I mean, I saw so many schools of skates and rays. It was very interesting.
Is this Mill Creek to the
Yes,
left?
yes, sir.
All right. So that's the entrance to Mill Creek there.
Yes, sir, up here. I zoomed in to try to show the property. I didn't really have it zoomed out enough to see where you're at, but yes, sir.
Well,
That
east and to the right of the screen. So I never did call that Dameron Marsh, but I mean, technically you're right, but on the east side of it is what everybody that I've known has called the Dameron Marsh. But this is a wetland here, and it was a airstrip in there.
Right, it's right there. It's an
Yeah,
emergency airstrip for the pilots.
I landed there one time and I was sorry I did.
Yeah, well, I've visited as well, and it's got big giant tufts of grass, and it is mowed, but it's not anywhere near turf. It's just, you could land there, but taking off would be very problematic.
Yep, found that out.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if it's on the aeronautical charts or not, but the board took no action on any of the properties. But I wanted to add,
Well, doesn't some society or Audubon or something, not Audubon, but
Department of Conservation and Recreation.
it's a snail darter nest out there somewhere.
Oh, I think it's tiger beetle.
There goes the damn
Tiger beetle.
Northeastern beach tiger beetle.
Northeastern beach tiger beetle, yeah, exactly.
So you're not legally supposed to walk on the beach.
Well, there's no beach on our property. I mean, I don't see
I'm
it.
coming out of
There's a little
the
beach.
creek and going east along the shoreline.
Well, certain times of the year, you're not supposed to walk in the Dameron Marsh. They have closures certain months of the year.
I heard that. I didn't know.
During the mating season or nesting season or something like that. And I'm not sure, I think it might be May or June, something like that. But yeah, they close off access to it. But it's another one of those jewels that Northumberland County has, and I would encourage people to visit it, but probably in the fall after the first freeze is a lot better than the middle of summer, because you might get carried off by mosquitoes.
That's right.
So
They
that
had
tract
big
is what, 20-some acres?
Dameron Marsh?
Yes.
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but yeah, I would say it's at least that.
That beachy area you see there, we always call that Thicket Bend.
Yeah.
And years ago, I mean, there were huge pine trees growing out there. And if you fly over it, it's getting ready to wash through again, create another thoroughfare.
Like every storm.
Yeah, it gets worse.
It doesn't grow back. It
All the
just
way
keeps
through to
growing.
Cloverdale. I mean, it's terrible.
That
Well-
I assume is fresh water.
No,
No, this is on Mill Creek,
no, it's all
saltwater.
Oh, okay, so it's all,
It's all tidal there.
Yeah, it's all tidal.
Yeah, I guess I should have done is zoomed in and zoomed out to get a bigger idea of where we're at, but I wanted to focus in on the main properties. But if you're okay, we can move to the memo from the Board of Supervisors in Hampton Hall, if that's okay.
Okay.
well, are we gonna provide them with Hampton Marsh as a,
Or Dameron Marsh.
Dameron Marsh as a possible alternative? Because I'm just guessing from the nature of the plats, it would be a hell of a lot cheaper to do a canoe and kayak landing
It would be.
at the marsh.
Hampton
as
Hall
opposed
is
to-
pretty heavily wooded, take a lot of clearing.
Well, there's a canoe kayak launch right here, so putting one's, right here is the DCR canoe kayak launch.
Oh, cool. Okay, I didn't know that.
That's the one I just said, I took
Oh,
my
I see.
canoe
Where you
down.
took your canoe, okay.
Yeah, it's rudimentary, it's not fancy dancy or anything, but you can get your canoe in, and park back at the parking lot here. And it's shallow here, it's very shallow, so you'd have to go out quite a way. There was some discussion that it's a little bit deeper here to the west of it, but then you would be possibly encroaching on the riparian rights of this property if you tried to create a fishing pier or something that went
It's
out
pretty
that way.
protected in there.
Right.
Yep, it is.
Well, I mean,
All I'm thinking is that, between the amount of clearing you'd have to do at the,
Hampton Hall site.
at the Hampton Hall site, and if VDOT requires a turn lane,
We'll have to find out about that,
the
but
cost is gonna go through the
do
roof.
we want to transition to Hampton Hall?
Well,
No, I'm just suggesting we give the,
Well, I've visited Hampton Hall a
Okay.
few years back. Again,
I visited it too, Stuart. What I was going to say is perhaps our better approach would be to give the Board of Supervisors an alternative to Hampton Hall, which would be, I'd suggest, Dameron Marsh.
well, there's a lot of woods here to get to the water. I don't know how this is going to be easier than an existing landing that has a hard surface road that goes to the water that's been there for 100 years.
As
And
I'm looking at that map, at that photograph, I guess,
Is that a marsh where that,
the blue line,
eastern blue line, is that a marsh or a field? Right there.
that is a tidal pond, it
Tidal pond,
looks
okay.
like to me.
Okay.
there's a pond at the end of it.
The road is right here, and this
Okay,
is not,
what's the border of the property? Is that land cleared, or is it marsh, or what is it?
which border are you asking, sir?
The one on the right.
This
Yeah, that-
this is scrub marsh land. There's the airfield here.
Right.
There's scrub inside of here, and then there's a tidal pond on that. And this is the natural area preserve. The road is where this little dashed white line is a driveway,
Yeah.
and that's the road, that entrance. So I can't measure on this. I can go to Google if you want to, but.
No, what I'm wondering is if this is going to be easier to clear, or,
Well, I'm pretty sure there's a wetland right here,
yeah, how about on the other side,
over here.
Yeah.
Well, I believe that's upland. I mean, I don't think that's wetland.
Where you've got wetlands, how are you gonna develop that?
Well, I don't think we should be second guessing what the board has asked us to do. We're supposed to, they've given us a memo and they've charged us with looking at Hampton Hall. And I would like to move to that if that's possible.
Well, there's been a suggestion that this be an alternative to Hampton Hall, but I'm just wondering if the folks on that end of the county would feel like they need something on their end that people would want to use.
Well, Mr. Brand of District 1 is the one that made the motion to look at Hampton Hall. So I think he wants us to look at Hampton Hall.
Yeah, I would think that.
And I'm not saying this isn't in the future that we could go here, but the board didn't ask us to look at this property for water access.
what I was suggesting, or trying to suggest, Stuart, is that if the cost and the time involved in getting a boat launch at Hampton Hall is going to be excessive, which it very well may be, depending on what VDOT wants to do about turn lane, then we could suggest this as an alternative, assuming that's economically feasible, and it may not be based on that, just on that aerial photo.
Yes, sir, I think that's perfectly fine, but I think the board wants us to run the
Yeah, we're
numbers.
gonna do that, Stuart,
Okay,
okay? Nobody's saying we can't.
okay.
Okay, let's move to Hampton Hall then.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, about 20 years ago, we were in the same spot that we're in now.
Yes, sir, and I will go that after we talk about the memo. I want you to read the memo from Mr. Tadlock at the Board of Supervisors July 5th, 2024 called meeting. The board asked the Planning Commission to move forward in evaluating what would need to be done to provide water access at the county-owned property located at Hampton Hall. So that's why I wanted to change the agenda, because I kind of jump a gun saying canoe kayak launch, because they want us to provide water access to citizens in the county. Back in 2004, when I was working with the Planning District Commission, and some of y'all may have been on the Planning Commission at the time, and I believe a few of you were, we put together a grant application for the Jesse Ball DuPont Fund. There were several sites that we wanted to look at. We had just finished the fishing pier down at Great Wacomico, very happy that we did that. And we were riding high on public water access, and we wanted to increase it. So we had proposals for Hampton Hall, Rose Landing, Cooper's Landing, and the Great Wacomico River. So I'd just like to give you a little history lesson back in time, what efforts have been taken by the Planning Commission. And so the Hampton Hall Creek, I don't really want to have to read all this, but we can look at back in the day, the pictures of the site. And this is from the bridge looking from Westmoreland County towards the point where the road that Hampton Hall Landing comes out at. And this is the conceptual drawing that I drew when I was with the Planning District Commission about what we could do at Hampton Hall Creek. At the time, it's too far. We wanted to increase the width of the driveway to 20 feet. However, when I measured it on the GIS, it is 20 feet between the guardrail. So I think that is ample. I looked up some of the VDOT regs regarding entrances, and that should allow one car coming in and one car coming out. Lane width is 8 feet, and you got an extra couple of feet there. At the time, in 2004, we wanted to create a 180-foot long section of asphalt because VDOT wants pavement to pavement, and you'll spin wheels and it'll dig out the gravel, and so that was a reason for that. We didn't want to make it a huge site because the more parking spaces, the more trips might trigger a turn lane. So we had 5 sites here, and then the existing road bed that was part of the landing that was there for hundreds of years, and put a handicap access at the water's edge. And the idea at the time was to create a fixed pier of 30 feet long and 6 foot wide, with a platform at the very end of 10 foot long and 6 foot wide, floating pier. At the time, we were thinking that, and I've got a floating pier, and I step in my canoe, whether it's high tide or low tide. It's very easy to get in, and my feet are dry. It doesn't have mud on them. Since then, we found that people don't mind getting their feet wet. So that's 2004, and that's basically what the plan is there. Before I go to what I've come up with lately, which I talked with Philip, I'd like to go talk about some of the other improvements, because at the past Planning Commission meetings, Mr. Cost has asked us what progress have we made on the comprehensive plan, and a lot of the places we have not made progress. But this is an example where we have made progress. This is synopsis of improvement at the Great Wacomico River. This is underneath the bridge. In 2004, we wanted to put a canoe kayak launch underneath the bridge. And we had an idea of going to the right side of the bridge and putting a little floating pier in there and have a canoe kayak launch there. And that did not pan out, and we did not get this grant. I don't think I mentioned that. We did not get the grant from Jesse Ball DuPont. So even though we had an idea, it took 20 years, but we finally got it going. So that was what we wanted to do at Hampton Hall. At Rose Landing, we wanted to put a floating platform to the side of it, a canoe kayak launch at Rose Landing. And I don't know if you're familiar with Rose Landing, but it's basically go out to Heathsville, past the courthouse, and then before you get to the health department, take a right into the road right there. It's the very headwaters of the Cone River. And at Cooper's Landing, we wanted to put a fishing pier. That has not come to fruition, but I just thought I would go through that.
What was the proposed cost on the Hampton Hall project?
There were no costs involved. We said we wanted to investigate this. This was a preliminary grant application, and there was no costs.
So no estimates of any kind?
No, sir.
Okay.
We have made progress. We have done some things with regards to public access. And I can show you the conceptual plan for what I've come up with lately. I talked with Philip about it. It's very similar to the other one. It follows the old road. The asphalt entrance has been drastically shortened because asphalt is very expensive, 75 feet now for that. The road's 20 foot wide. 5 parking spaces here. We still have the handicap accessible, but instead of trying to create a semicircle around the water, we just create a turnoff to the left. So you pull your truck in, drop your canoe off, back up, and then come out the road, instead of trying to make this big circular thing right next to the water. There is no water access structure here because we want to talk about that. There's no determination with regards to that. But the total acreage of the parcel is 3.9 acres. Of course, this is Hampton Hall Road. This is Hampton Hall Creek. Westmoreland County boundary goes to the middle of that. I measured the width of the entrance is 20 feet. The square footage of the entrance asphalt area, which is 75 feet in, and 725 square feet of asphalt. The gravel parking lot area where the 5 parking spaces are 1,070 square feet. The gravel road area that is from here to the end, and that turnoff is 5,900 square feet. And the handicap parking area, Mr. Marson noted that you can't put asphalt next to the water, and concrete would be the best for that. It's expensive, but it would be 380 square feet. So that's basically what we have for a conceptual plan. Of course, we don't know about VDOT, so that would probably be the next step, but I wanted to discuss as well what type of access do we want with regards to how to get to the water. And if it is a canoe kayak launch, I don't know if y'all are aware of what the county has put down at Lodge Landing. This is Lodge Landing. There is the courtesy pier and the boat ramp for Lodge Landing. This is on the right-hand side. And it's a roll-up canoe kayak launch. This is a mat that you roll down, and so you don't scrape your canoe or damage the marsh grass. And you have a little bench here. And this was created last year, well, this spring, with ARPA money. And this cost $22,000. And that is the up version, and this is when the mat is deployed. You walk into the water. So you won't get mud on your shoes, you won't sink into the mud, and I'm not sure how you roll it up once you put the canoe in the water.
Who's responsible for rolling it?
I assume it's honor society. It's your
You could probably ride down there most any time, and I see it look just like that.
I have not been down there lately, but this is what was put down at Hampton Hall. We had initially wanted to do another launch at Rose Landing as well, but the cost of this used up all the funding. But so this is one option if that's something y'all are interested in. You know, the floating pier, that's an option as well. But we did create a JPA, which is a joint permit application, which is necessary to do any work in state waters for Rose Landing. And so Rose Landing, this is the drawings for the floating pier for Rose Landing. And there's existing boat ramp there. There's an existing courtesy pier. And they, this was Joey Scott, proposed a floating platform next to it with a little cutout for you to drop your canoe in so you can be on either side of the kayak or canoe. And it's very similar to our proposal in the Jesse Ball Fund. And it's got construction, all the design specs have already been done. I talked with Philip about what he thought the cost of this type of a floating platform. Of course, we'd have to build a pier because this one, we'd just be adding it to a pier. But in the case of Hampton Hall, we'd have to build the pier first. And he said around $15,000. And you know, as you all know, and I've told you before, we do have $14,000 in the Chesapeake Bay Access Fund, but you got to do the road and you got to do the parking lot, and so this, like Mr. O'Brien said, this could get costly. But I just wanted to show you the different designs, and I'm not sure how y'all would like to proceed, but in my opinion, I think the next step is to contact David Beal with the Northern Neck residency and ask what type of requirements we need for the entrance.
Because I think that was one of the problems the last time.
We never got We never got the definitive word that we needed a turn lane, but it is 55 miles an hour. And it is primary highway.
And it's around a turn.
Yes, and
As
go
you
downhill
down,
around
you
turn.
can't see.
Right.
It'd be a tough place to back out.
And
I was gonna ask, how about getting out of that,
It's not real easy.
no, I would think it'd be kind of hazardous.
I don't want to be
I've worked a couple of accidents there, I'm telling you, that's tough.
What's that material that they put down on
And there's only
drive,
5 spaces.
pathways and roads and all that stuff? Like, I think the stuff they get off the surface, the asphalt, and they grind it up, and they've got a name for that.
I'm not sure what you're thinking about.
I had somebody going to a boathouse and it's low, and sometimes the tide would come up there, or heavy rains, and it would get ruts and stuff going through it when it's wet. Well, I had some of that put in there, and it really works good. It's not like laying asphalt or concrete, but it is really hard, and it hadn't broken up any yet. It's been there for about a year.
It's called millet or something.
Yeah, I think that's milling. Yeah, I think that's
How
right.
long has that been in place?
I don't think it's been there a year, but,
Oh, okay.
I don't know, so far, I'm kind of pleased with it.
well, I tried to get in the street view so we could see the actual road. I should have done this on my laptop before.
There you go, okay.
Street view.
And Stu, you said that's 3.9 acres?
Yes, sir. So this is the entrance. There is gravel, as I mentioned, there's a hard packed road. There are trees that have fallen down, but as far as I know, there's not trees growing up in the road, but I could be wrong. It's been a few years since I've been there. But if you look, this is a pretty good sight distance to Westmoreland County. However, when you look back up the road, it is a downhill turn. We have 280 feet from this entrance to our property line. So that should be enough room for a deceleration lane if we do need one. I looked at the traffic counts, and it was 2,650 a day. Divide that into 24 hours is 109 vehicles a day. Now, that was from back in 2016, so that traffic count. But the determination on whether you need a turn lane is dependent on the number of vehicles per hour and the speed limit. So it would take VDOT to run the numbers to tell us what we would need there.
And they've improved that road since the last time we looked at it.
Yeah, there's already a substantial shoulder here. And the other good thing is that the power lines are back far enough that we would not have to move a power line to put in a turn lane. So, like I said, this landing is at least 150 years old. And the water is pretty shallow there. It's probably about 3.5 feet deep there. But it's about a mile or two to Kinsale around the corner. But I was going to see if I could go down there and knock down some of the weeds, and maybe we could go out and visit the site in the
Yeah.
future.
Sounds like a field trip.
I think your suggestion makes sense that we contact VDOT first because that's going to be the long pole in the tent, as they say, in terms of cost here.
Yes,
And
and
is it customary, though, once you have more definitive word from VDOT and anybody else that cares, to maybe contact some contractors who might be interested in doing the work and have them give us suggestions? I don't know what the customary process is, because I've not been here long enough. I mean,
Well-
or do you need to go to a formal bidding process or an estimating process?
well, I don't have construction experience, and that would be my suggestion, is that we get this contractor to look at it and then formulate a materials list and item punch list that we would need to do, and then put that out to bid.
Most paving contractors will give you a ballpark estimate of cost per foot, depending on what the materials are.
That's the contractors, I mean, the paving part, so then we have to look at the dock and all that other stuff too.
Yeah, I'm just going with what,
Understood.
and, you know, if they require a turn lane, we need some sense of how much that would add to the project.
So clearly, that's the first thing we need to focus on, is exactly what are the requirements that we have to meet.
And there is a program that I am aware of that VDOT will cost share with the locality to build a road into a park. Richmond County used that for their Little League fields in the fairgrounds. It's not, you know, I'm not sure if it's 50-50 or 80-20, but the county would have to put up money, but VDOT would pay for that. Now, that's for a park. I'm not sure if they would do it for a water access facility, but when I contact Mr. Beal, I can ask about that as well. And that would help us defer some of the cost. And I don't know if they'll do turn lanes. They said they do access roads to parks, and that's traditional ballparks, playgrounds, and things of that nature. But I can ask Mr. Beal if that.
What would stop us from potentially renaming this a park?
Yeah, you could do that.
Pardon me?
You could, I don't know what the definition of a park would be versus this.
And,
Maybe.
I mean, you
Maybe
can call
they
it
have a
anything you want to call it.
We put a couple of cornhole games in the parking lot, then it's a park, you know, it's a
Picnic
sports
bench.
facility.
One picnic bench, that's all you need.
So Stuart, the first step then is to contact VDOT
Yes, sir.
to get some idea of what we would need to do. And then, once we get their idea, there's no sense in going any further unless they give us some definitive answers.
Right.
What they are responsible for, I would think.
Well, I mean, I'm going to query about the grant program as well.
Okay. Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah, I think it's a
Do
good
that.
idea.
So that would be the next step to that, is just get VDOT's input on it. Okay? So we can't do.
And like I said, it's a hard road right there. We're not talking, it's packed down over the hundreds of years. It's not like it's a quagmire. Now, there is a marsh on the right-hand side of that, but,
As you go in.
correct. But it is hard packed, and so I would think that it would remove the brush and perhaps put a layer of gravel on top, but I don't think it'd be grading or having to create a road bed because there's one already there.
I certainly think it would be a benefit to have a launch there, because the water is, like you say, less than 3 feet probably.
Well, I mean, ideally, we'd like to have the whole county covered. And then if we do happen to be able to move forward with Hampton Hall, I think the lower county is the next place, because we've got the center county covered.
Right.
And we've got the upper part of the county covered, and there's really not, as Mr. Fisher would say a lot, there's not a lot down there. And ideally, it'd be nice to have another powerboat launch down there, because there's nothing between Sandy Point and Windmill Point for powerboats, unless you go to a marina. You know, there's always possibilities. So I'll be glad to do that and report to you back at the next meeting.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions from commissioners? Any other questions? Is that okay with everybody? He's gonna report back next month? Is that all right? Okay, and so now, let's go to the continued discussion of Chapter 3 of the Comprehensive Plan.
Yes, sir. Would you like for me to rehash what we've done for the people that weren't here before? I did create, if you recall the last meeting, Mr. O'Brien stated that the future land use plan map could use some improvements. And so I made some changes to that, if you'd like to see that.
Sure.
And we could look at the solar as well, if you'd like, a section of solar that we did. So this is the existing future land use plan map, and if you recall, I stated that I had put, when I was at the PDC, I had put the topographic map in to kind of show where the forest and where the open land was, but it does kind of clutter up the background. Mr. Bryan said that the growth areas don't really show in this, and it's not really the focus of the map, so I suggested we remove the topographic map. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that that's my water, so I had to go in and create water polygons for all the creeks so we'd have blue water. But anyway, so that line through it has shown that I've deleted it. And this is the new map. I changed, instead of village growth areas, as per Mr. O'Brien's recommendation, put future growth areas. And with a white background, I think that the growth areas show a lot better. Of course, we still have the Chesapeake Bay RPA. If you'd like me to drop that, I can do that. But I think this is a lot cleaner growth map, and hope that addressed some of your concerns.
I think it's much better.
So further on, we defined what conservation easements were, as from Mr. Cost's comments, that protected lands are under conservation easements, that open space is land that is not developed. There was some confusion regarding green space and open space. So then went further down, when it talked about green space, we just got rid of the green space. It's now open space.
We gotta get rid of all that green space.
It's open space is a much better term. And we added when clustering, this talking about protected lands, that's conservation easements. And talking with Mr. Marston, when clustering residences are in planned unit developments, that's the only time the county requires you to put it in conservation easements. These subdivisions that now have open lands, they're not protected at all unless you go through the clustering or planned unit development. So they can start building houses in those, the original developer, if they wanted to. But anyway, just wanted to clarify that. The shoreline inventory has a new web address, so we quoted that, so I put it in a new web address so that if somebody clicked on a link, it would work. Got rid of a couple other places where green was that I didn't know, didn't catch last time. I did a hot link for the enterprise zones, and I'm not sure if y'all are very familiar with enterprise zones. In each one of the villages, it says that growth should be focused in the support areas and where possible in the enterprise zones. And I didn't know if y'all would like to take a time to look at the enterprise zones just for a moment and see where they are in the county, if that's, I mean, if that's your...
The definition of an enterprise zone.
It's a state program that gives incentives. Well, you can read here. In 1982, the General Assembly created an enterprise zone as a partnership between state and local government to stimulate job creation and private investment. And this is something the Economic Development Commission, I'm sure, is aware of or will be interested in. There's a job creation grant and a real property investment grant. And I worked at the PDC when we started this, and I thought it was you had to have, this is the criteria, 25 new full-time jobs, invest $250,000, and have income of an annual wage of at least 125 the area average. Now come to find out that you can do the jobs and with the wages, or you can just invest $250,000. It's not and, it's or. And I know that because the Dollar General in Burgess requested money for their investment over $250,000, and they received $100,000 from the state.
Cool. Good.
And that was in the report that I did not too long ago. Other counties have incentives. Northumberland doesn't. But anyway, this is the enterprise zone map. And this is at the PDC website, northernneck.us. It shows the whole northern neck, but we'll drill into Northumberland County. It's all tied in by the main road. but these are parcels outside of Callio and around Callio, into Lotsburg on both sides. Then you go down into to the east of Heathsville. That's our growth area as well, and our growth area goes to about right here. And then you follow down 360 in Burgess. There are enterprise zone parcels there. So these, it would have to be in these parcels in order to apply for the grant. And the Dollar General was in here, and that's why they got funding. And then there's some more down in Reedville. And Wacomico Church, the Family Dollar, I'm not sure if it's Family Dollar or what, but they did not apply for those funds, and I'm not sure why they didn't. But anyway, so then we go down and then we get into Lancaster. But that's basically where the enterprise zones are in the county, and I just thought that would,
I suppose there's a big one around Reedville, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So if you're not in these zones, then you're not eligible for any of those grant programs.
Don't those zones seem to correspond to what we refer to as support areas?
For
Is that fairly high correlation?
Not exactly, but yes, sir, for the most part.
Point over there is enterprise zone, and that the big parcel to the right is Omega,
Yes, sir.
and right across is that
That was
Standard product.
standard products there.
right. And this is I believe Zal Zone Industrial.
Right. Probably are, so both sides of the creek, right?
Right. And the state allows it because they're contiguous. You're joined by these little connecting roads.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if they had a parcel that was in or out in here. I think it has to be in one of these larger areas to be applicable. But I just thought that would be something that y'all would like to know and get a handle on.
Is that in any of these maps that you sent us?
None of the enterprise zone is not in the comprehensive plan.
Not in this, okay.
Not in the comprehensive plan. It references it in every village. It says you want to develop those first if possible.
So we're going to include that now in the comprehensive plan?
I wasn't planning on it if that's what you all want to do.
Depending on a hot link to it. So
That's how I got here, yeah. I mean, at the present, the existing enterprise zones are not relevant to the county land use planning and should not drive planning, but the program can be used as a tool to assist in directing development into areas consistent with the plan. Applications for enterprise zone grants, when received, should be reviewed for consistency with the approved land use plan, and it shows to view them, go to the Northern Neck Chesapeake Bay Region Partnership.
Well, would the property owner know that that was available if it's not?
Well, hopefully they would talk to the Economic Development Commission, and they would say, we should check, we can check. They can call, previously they called the PDC, but they could call Mr. Tadlock and ask, and if they gave them the parcel number, we could respond to that.
Does it make sense on the fourth line where it ends in the plan and to make reference to the support areas? Because that's basically what we're talking about, is Patrick's point.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, you know, in particular, these parts.
This is the framework of the village policies. That's where this is, explaining what the support areas, the commercial hubs are, and what the support areas. So that's where we're at.
Okay.
That's right before it.
Got it.
And with regards to Mr. Koss's comments that if we're not actively doing something, perhaps we shouldn't list it. We put a little placeholder in here stating that Burgess and Heathsville should have sewer systems, but that at this time, it's not, the population is too sparse to support financing and servicing of the loan. But in the future, this could change. So we still want to hold on to that, but it's nothing actively being done at this particular time. Y'all wanted me to take out the Lodge Creek Reservoir because that doesn't seem to be on the radar screen. I renumbered them, of course, because I deleted that one. When we talked about, we talked in general about updating this to reflect what's actually there. The school board office, of course, is not in Lotsburg anymore, so I struck that. And there was another sentence that talked about a school board office, and then I just added, it talks about providing a core employment base, and I put a major building supplier and 2 restaurants. That's what I came up with. If y'all would like to change that, that's a recent change that I made since the last meeting. Provide a core employment base that could be expanded by other major employers. Man, the company's major, but it doesn't sell lumber, so I wouldn't, not sure. Anyway, that's
We're
what.
talking about Ace and Callio Supply?
Plattsburgh. We're talking
Ace
about.
Hardware Store. But they don't
Major
sell,
building supplier.
they don't sell building materials.
Well, if you need a faucet or electrical outlets or things of that nature.
Like a conventional hardware store,
Yeah.
but not a building supply.
If you'd like me to change it to a hardware store, I'll be glad to.
No, we've also got Callio Supply.
But
That's a whole other area.
This is Lotsburg.
this is a discussion of the
We can-
village in Lotsburg.
I mean, it services Lotsburg.
I think you should put hardware store.
You do?
I agree.
Everybody agree with that? Okay.
Selling your lumber, so.
And when I read that, I'm trying to think, where's their building supply place?
I assume it's Ace. I couldn't think of anything else that it
It is
could
Ace.
be.
They're certainly
Change.
nice hardware store.
I was assuming he sold lumber and materials like that, but I can't say that I've seen any there.
No, they don't. Okay, I'll make that change. Page 319.
With Bond's Tires there too. There's several service stations.
Yeah, we talked about it up here.
Okay.
Storage place there too.
Automobile shop. I assume that's Bond, you know. We were trying to do generic. We weren't trying to name businesses in case they were taken over or changed names. So in that same vein, I got rid of Food Line as a name, and Family Dollar, we just called it a grocery store and a dollar store. I removed the pharmacy because the Heathsville pharmacy is no longer there. Didn't think it was necessary to add a dog training facility. So if y'all like me to, I can. Remove the water supply, reservoir for Crab Mill Stream, renumbered after that. And then, again, promote enterprise zone parcels first. That's it on every village that's there. And then Heathsville, that was Heathsville. No, Burgess. Greenville, we added that in the historic area, state historic preservation rules apply. And further down, there was a goal to, within the Greenville Historic District, establish guidelines for retaining the original quote-unquote town character in buildings as they're modified, constructed, or reconstructed. And Philip and I talked, and in the zoning ordinance, it said the local historic district board would make those guidelines, and it's not been established, but when it is established, they would make those guidelines. Just to clarify that, because at the time, they're not any guidelines. And then North Kilmarnock and Lillian, I don't think there are any changes to that. Village, no changes. There's a policies for special areas at the end of this chapter that has the historical and archaeological areas, the highway corridors and areas identified for reservoirs, and Patuxent Naval Air Station. I need to delete this highway corridor overlays, and I did not do that, but on 338, from list, delete, because you all asked us to delete the highway corridors after discussions that VDOT is doing the access management, and the county is not very, well, the access management is not very popular with business owners, and so we deleted the highway corridor overlay district. And in the reservoir areas, we got rid of all of them except 3, and there was basically wanted the zoning ordinance to control development in those areas. And so I struck that and basically said that the area identified for the 3 sites, plus an area 800 feet landward of these sites, should be considered. And I got rid of included in the reservoir overlay district, because that's a zoning district that I don't think, you all said y'all aren't ready for that. And instead of saying the policies for building in the reservoir overlay district, I just put near reservoir sites just to make it more nebulous. That's something we may need to do in the future if we decide to go down that road. Renumbered the Patuxent Naval Air Joint Survey, land use study, and then added the solar energy facilities. I can read this. I mean, I talked about it before, but for the benefit of those that weren't here, Northumberland County understands that clean renewable energy sources are the future of energy in the Commonwealth. Solar energy facilities are one type of renewable energy that will likely play a large role in powering the county and state into the future. However, Northumberland County is a unique county and endeavors to protect its viewsheds, farms and forests, ability to grow, as well as its local water quality. To that end, there are guidelines that Northumberland County would like solar energy facility developments to adhere by, and they follow. The first one, solar energy facilities should be located at least 1,000 feet from any village growth or support area to allow for future growth in the county. And so that's where we need to expand, and if we have solar developments there, we can expand. So that was a rationale from that.
Just a quick wording thing on the last line there. Northumberland County would like solar energy facility. Shouldn't that be required rather than would like required?
It's up to the commission, but
We're talking about a conditional use permit, I assume, for the solar facility?
yes, sir.
I think that's as strong a suggestion as you really want to make.
Would like.
This is a general.
Would like, yeah.
This is a general planning document. It is not an enforcement document.
That's fine.
It's I could put in prefer. That Northumberland County would prefer.
We're good. Move on.
Okay. The number 2 thing we would like to have is solar energy facilities should be located to minimize the impact on prime agricultural soils. Siting solar energy facilities on marginal soils that have low agricultural production rates would be preferred. Number 3 would be solar energy facilities should be located to minimize the impact of forest resources and to maximum extent possible concentrate solar energy facility development on open land. And those 2 are kind of contradictory, but we're saying we want them on the less productive soils. Open space, but on less productive soils. And then finally, this is from the Rural Solar Development Coalition from Susan Seward. Solar energy facilities should leave existing vegetation on the border of the site in place, if present, for natural vegetative visual buffers, as opposed to clearing all vegetation and establishing new vegetative visual buffers. Following this recommendation should reduce costs for the developer while at the same time preserving a more robust and dense visual vegetative buffers. And it seemed like everybody was okay with that last time. Is there any change in that, or would you like to add anything, or is that sufficient? And then that's the changes that I made in chapter 3. If you would like more or look at another section, I'll be glad to.
I'm curious, because there's a lot of capitalized words in here. Forest resources, is that a formal term, or why are they capitalized?
Good question. Because I'm happy with the shift button, I guess. So would you like me to take solar energy, should we capitalize solar energy facilities?
Only if it's a defined term, because.
Well, it's in the zoning ordinance.
Okay, and that's fine, but is prime agricultural soils and all that other stuff?
Not necessarily.
So let's go to lowercase.
That's fine.
Yep.
Decapitalize forest resources.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's it. Let me go number 1, make sure I didn't overcapitalize there, okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Sometimes I, like I said, get happy with the shit button. That's all I have unless y'all have additional changes you all would like to make.
Anything else, Commissioner? Anything else?
Thank you.
Nothing.
No, job well done.
Excellent, thank you. Anything else? All right. Okay, Stuart.
Okay, that's the end of the agenda, unless you all have something you all would like to discuss. I don't have, well, I can look it up. There was 2 solar facilities. There was one in, off Burgess across from Dollar General Store, Stephen Jet, and that was denied. And then there was one down on Old Cleve Point Road as well. These had been before the board previously, and it had been a year. They reapplied. And as Mr. Haney talked about at the beginning of the meeting, there was a lot of citizen opposition to them. And it didn't seem like the right fit in the county for those particular places. And so they were both denied.
Richard, did you have anything to add, or?
No, that's about it on that. I think that covered that pretty decent.
Okay,
And that's also prime farmland there also, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a good call.
does anyone in the virtual world have any comments, public comments at this time? Comments at this time, all right. No public comments. Does the commissioners have anything further to say, to add for tonight's meeting? Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn then.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. Second. All right. Thank you, everybody.